Detroit, they broke the city up into 8 pieces. The city can hold 3 Senate districts. They broke it into 8 to dilute the voice of Detroiters and the Black people. So bottom line is, come January 23, you may have somebody representing Detroit from Birmingham, Michigan, from Harrison Township, from Oakland County, from parts of Macomb County who typically never vote like Detroit. Basically, you may have no Black senator, or you have nobody from Detroit in the state Senate, not in Congress, or potentially in the state House because of the way these maps are being drawn.
Well, one thing that is interesting that there's still another hole. SERA only applies to renters. So if you're a homeowner or you have a land contract or some other type of arrangement that doesn't fit neatly in the SERA bucket, and you see that a lot in Detroit, due to our redlining, people are trying to use alternative means to buy because the banks aren't lending.
Wow, can you believe it? Here we are at Friday. It might be a little bit cloudy outside, but it's going to be a very big weekend. We have that game of Michigan and Michigan State that's happening tomorrow on Saturday. I don't know if you've got your tickets, you're going to tailgate, but whatever that is, be safe and definitely stay healthy and be careful. Listen, we got some other stories today too, as well as phenomenal guests. There was an $88 million settlement that happened. We'll tell you the particular story that's associated with that. And then also a $10 million settlement. You're gonna be surprised about that as well. There is a Netflix film called Passing. Have you heard about it? If not, of course, we'll give you the 411 on that information. And then we are going to talk about hate crimes. They are heating up. Not only have they heated up with the Asian community, but now it's happening in the African-American community. So great stories, phenomenal guests. We're going to talk about evictions. Yes, we're still talking about that conversation, as well as voting and redistricting. You need to know about that information. So stay put, stay connected. We will be right back. I'm so excited about our stories and guests today.
Movies, documentaries, TV shows, local, national, world news, history, and culture. No network can tell your story better than UIN, because we are you. With us, you can become more than just a consumer. You become a keeper of the culture and empowered. Go to uintv.net, click on a channel to support, and subscribe today. Do it now.
All right. Of 9 people gunned down following a Bible study in Charleston, South Carolina, have reached a settlement with the U.S. District Justice Department, 6 years ago, white supremacist Dalen Roof attended a Bible study at Mother Emanuel. Wow, can you believe it? Here we are at Friday. It might be a little bit cloudy outside, but it's going to be a very big weekend. We have that game of Michigan and Michigan State that's happening tomorrow on Saturday. I don't know if you've got your tickets, you're going to tailgate, but whatever that is, be safe and definitely stay healthy and be careful. Listen, we got some other stories today too, as well as phenomenal guests. There was an $88 million settlement that happened. We'll tell you the particular story that's associated with that. And then also a $10 million settlement. You're gonna be surprised about that as well. There is a Netflix film called Passing. Have you heard about it? If not, of course, we'll give you the 411 on that information. And then we are going to talk about hate crimes. They are heating up. Not only have they heated up with the Asian community, but now it's happening in the African American community. So great stories, phenomenal guests. We're going to talk about evictions. Yes, we're still talking about that conversation, as well as voting and redistricting. You need to know about that information. So stay put, stay connected. We will be right back. I'm so excited about our stories and guests today.
Movies, documentaries, TV shows, local, national, world news, history, and culture. No network can tell your story better than UIN, because we are you. With us, you can become more than just a consumer. You become a keeper of the culture and empowered. Go to uintv.net, click on a channel to support, and subscribe today. Do it now.
A white man living in North Carolina has been awarded a substantial sum of money in a discrimination case. This is something that we normally don't hear about. Dan Duval sued Novant Health, Inc. in 2019 after he said the company fired him in an effort to achieve diversity in the upper ranks. So how much did he get? Let's take a look.
$10 million. That's how much a federal jury has awarded a man who says he was fired for being a white male. David Duvall, a former top executive at Novant Health in North Carolina, claims he was let go in 2018 because of the company's efforts to diversify leadership positions.
No performance issues whatsoever, just out of the clear blue sky. Was fired 5 days short of his 5th year when he was supposed to get a bump in severance from 12 to 18 months given his tenure.
Luke Largess is Duvall's attorney. He argued the termination was a violation of the Civil Rights Act, which bans workplace discrimination on the basis of race or gender. Novant Health denied firing Duvall for the, quote, sole purpose of achieving diversity. In court documents, they allege Duvall was terminated for, quote, deficient performance and delegation of the critical duties of his position to his subordinates.
What was you all's response to those claims?
They were complete nonsense.
In recent years, there have been several high-profile cases alleging discrimination against white workers, including lawsuits against YouTube, Google, and Starbucks. This verdict comes as calls for greater equity and inclusion in the workplace grow, and as companies aim to address historic hiring, pay, and promotion gaps that have disadvantaged minority workers.
Very interesting. Duvall had worked for the hospital system as vice president of marketing and communication. Netflix will soon air the movie Passing. It's a film about a Black woman passing for white. This is a follow-up to a story we reported a little bit earlier. Though the film is a period piece, the two actresses who portray the main character says that the racial dynamics remain pertinent to this day. Let's take a look at what they're talking about.
This is my husband, John Bellew. Does he know? This is the unraveling of a woman, and all you feel is, oh, that could be anybody. That could be anybody. If they're not living their truth, that's what happens.
What?
You never thought of passing?
No, why should I? I have everything I've ever wanted.
Grappling with identity, grappling with the idea of, do we accept the identity that society gives us, whatever that might be? The inner tensions between being drawn towards our desires, but then being pulled towards our responsibilities.
The scene between myself and Andre Holland's character, he plays my husband, Brian, and you could literally pluck those words and put them in, in a modern parent. Now they're having a conversation as to what to tell their young boys when there are lynchings, how honest to be with them about the Black experience. And that's something that I'm sure parents, not too long ago over the events of, last summer were having in their living rooms.
Oh my, that is absolutely a powerful trailer. Passing premieres on Netflix on November the 6th. Be sure to catch the movie. We all have heard of the increase in hate crimes among Asian Americans. What is being reported now that the hate crimes has risen with regards to African Americans? Let's take a look at this story.
Disturbing new information from the FBI on hate crimes. They are going up with an especially sharp increase in attack on Asian Americans. Our Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas has the details. Good morning, Pierre.
George, good morning. The new numbers from the FBI show hate and racism are alive and well in America. The number of people being attacked based on race spiked dramatically last year, according to new crime data reported to the FBI.
We have the trends nationwide have hate crimes rising across all categories.
According to the FBI, there were at least 11,126 victims of hate crime reported to the Bureau in 2020, compared to 8,552 the previous year, a 30% increase. The majority of race-related attacks targeted African Americans, a group which saw a stunning nearly 63% jump in attacks against them and their property in comparison to 2019.
It really strikes at the fundamental core of who the person is, which makes it very different from some of the other violent crimes.
Some law enforcement officials say the rise in hate could be attributed to racial tensions in the aftermath of George Floyd and the stress and ignorance created by COVID-19. Hate crimes against Asian Americans surging 76% in 2020.
Certainly following the pandemic, we saw a rise in Asian American Pacific Islander violence and threats.
The FBI has launched a PR campaign encouraging citizens to report hate crimes and to make it clear that the Bureau has resources to help victims deal with attacks ranging from security to counseling. Amy?
All right, Pierre Thomas, thank you for that.
My goodness, that is not a good story to report. However, as you have heard, this is true. Much of the increase in 2020 was due to the white media putting a Black face on COVID, which led to many believing that COVID was a Black health issue and not just a human issue. In the beginning, that was being reported. The current data shows that African American deaths rate for COVID is half that of whites. The US has 1/4 the population of India and 300,000 more deaths. We need accurate information to really truly fight this dreaded pandemic, and we cannot blame one group of people or one culture for what is going on. If we trace back how this all began, we will find the truth. But do we really want to see the truth, and will we embrace the truth? We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about evictions, because this is still happening. And so we do need information as to how people can get help if they find themselves in a situation and they need some legal counsel and or advice. So stay put.
911, what's your emergency?
Oh my God, a child been shot!
Signal 13 involving a child, the medicine route.
It is time to put the guns down. We've had enough. My future.
My future.
My future. Our futures are in your hands.
Adults, put the guns down.
Wanna play? Sleep.
Walk to school.
Visit my friends. I want to feel safe.
It's time.
Time to end gun violence.
Our lives depend on.
Adults, this is not a request.
We demand that you protect us.
Put the guns down. We have hope. dreams.
Goals.
Don't let a split second of anger with someone else take away my entire lifetime.
Help us live. Help us thrive.
Help us build a better future.
I absolutely love that commercial because it is our children speaking, and they're speaking out to us as adults to put the guns down. Way too many gun violent crimes that are going on. So listen, we're going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about evictions because it's still happening and it's just massive right about now. We're going to talk to our good friend, attorney Tanya Phillips, and she's here back with us again. She practices in Michigan and she advocates for equitable and inclusive public policies. Attorney Phillips currently serves as the Community Partnership and Development Director for the Sugar Law Center for Economic and Social Justice in Detroit. Attorney Phillips also consults with the Michigan Legal Services on housing policies for low-income families as the public policy advisor. And she is the ERACE, which stands for End Rental Arrears to Stop Evictions project lead for keeping Detroiters in their homes. Come on in, Attorney Phillips. Good to talk to you again.
Good morning, Angela. So good to be here.
So how have you been since the last time we spoke?
Oh, we've been very busy, very, very busy. And thank you so much for, providing time and space to share with our community how serious this issue really is of eviction and displacement in our community.
And the issue is that with evictions and displacement, if people become homeless, then that adds to the pandemic crises that's going on. And so it is a health condition or situation as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we were in a crisis before the pandemic, and now with this global health pandemic, individuals being displaced from their home, is terrible and bad and catastrophic in any circumstance. And with the pandemic, with evictions continuing to happen and the moratorium being lifted, we don't want to get to a point in our community that we can't heal and can't come back from this, in any reasonable amount of time. So right now it's not the time to take the guard off. We need to continue letting people know, what type of assistance is available, be that rental assistance, legal representation, and our number one priority, for those families and for the good and welfare and safety of our entire community is to keep people in their homes.
Now that is great. And that is a great way for us to segue into asking you, what is your role with the Detroit Right to Counsel Coalition, which is DRTC? And what other organizations are involved, the coalition that has come together?
Well, thank you for asking. The Detroit Right to Counsel Coalition is a coalition of 18 organizations and growing in the city of Detroit, and we are united around our common interest and belief that now is the time to have a right to counsel ordinance in the city of Detroit. And what that would do is provide a guaranteed right to legal representation when a Detroiter is facing eviction in 36th District Court. So right now, we have that in the criminal context. It's a constitutional right that if you're charged with a crime, a felony, something very serious, or a misdemeanor, something lower on the totem pole, either way, you don't have to go into court alone in a very complicated system and try to make the best of it by yourself. We recognize the necessity of having legal representation in criminal proceedings, but there is not an equivalent on the civil side. So while a person is going into the court, having to enter into a system, a very complicated system, they're not guaranteed right to representation. And before the pandemic, less than 5% of individuals facing eviction had legal representation, less than 5. So that is part of the reason why evictions in Detroit are so high, averaging around 30,000 evictions every year before the pandemic. So we're thankful for some of the relief measures that have been put in place to slow things down, but it's not a permanent solution. And our coalition believes now is the time that Detroiters need to come together and invest in this permanent solution that's proven to be effective. And some of the coalitions in our organization include the ACLU of Michigan, Michigan Uniteds. We have statewide organizations. We have community-based organizations like Congress of Communities and Detroit People's Platform, Wisdom Institute. We have legal services organizations like Michigan Legal Services and Sugar Law Center. And we have citywide coalitions as well, like Community Development Advocates of Detroit, CDAD. So collectively, we're able to reach every pocket of the city, with this message. And now is the time to do it for Detroit. And support has been evident in the federal level. The Biden administration has been very clear that investing in a right to counsel is a smart way to use American Rescue Act funds and to have not just temporary fixes, but long-term sustainable solutions. So that's what we're coming together around to, just provide this basic level of dignity in eviction proceedings by being able to have an attorney, standing by your side and fighting for you, because otherwise it's a very difficult thing for a person to try and pick up a case and figure it out themselves. It's very difficult and does not work out most of the time, unfortunately.
I cannot imagine standing in front of a judge with a case and you don't even understand the language.
Right.
Nobody's there to explain it to you. And then so you get, lack of a better word, railroaded because you don't know and you don't understand.
That's the perfect word. That's the perfect word. And it happens a lot. We have an adversarial legal system, and a lot of people don't understand that. So when you go in front of the judge is neutral. The judge is impartial. The judge has to make a decision on the evidence presented before him or her. They can't, kind of get down in the case and help people out, so to speak. So it's important that you know what to say and you give the judge the legal evidence to present your case. And that is a very specific skill set, a little bit of inside knowledge, but everyone should have the benefit of legal counsel because it is a disproportionate power balance when you're unrepresented, going against a trained attorney, who's probably there every day, knows the ropes, knows the law, knows the people, and most of the people that are facing eviction, now the courts are on Zoom, but when it was open, you'd see a courtroom of Black women and seniors are the majority of people that you'll see, in that situation. So we have to take care of our community, right? And provide this basic level of decency. And, that's what we're asking the city of Detroit to do. And, being responsible, being proactive, and being compassionate at this time and providing legal representation for individuals.
So Attorney Phillips, are you seeing that in the courts, that compassion and that understanding? Because, a lot of landlords, for whatever reason, there are reasons for taking someone to court. Now, these Sarah dollars are out there, but we have even reported that when the tenant gets the Sarah dollars to take care of whatever the back rent issues are, they're still being evicted.
It's a lot of trickery going on. I mean, it's better in the sense that at least Sarah exists, right? And that's a start, and now at least cases, the first hearing is adjourned, and that provides individuals enough time to get their application in. But you still need a lawyer to follow the process through from beginning to end. So landlords don't take the ceremony, and then a month later or 2 months later, whenever they feel like the coast is clear, they turn around and evict you anyway. So you need someone to watchdog that entire process to make sure it goes according to plan. And, a lot of people are benefiting from the program, which is good, but we still have too many that are slipping through the cracks, and we need to shut the back door on that and provide legal representation for everyone.
That's good. I like what you said, that we need to shut the back door and provide the legal representation. So what outreach activities are occurring to reach Detroiters being evicted who will need the legal representation in court? How are, this coalition of people coming together? How are you reaching people to say, hey, there's some help for you and you don't have to go to court by yourself?
Yes, we are using all available means. So of course, we're using social media and all the internet websites. But in addition to that, we are going door to door. We're door knocking, we're canvassing, we're doing events in the community with resource tables, and we're actually doing a very targeted strategy as well, because people do slip through the cracks. So we are trying to close the back door and working with the court to get a list of individuals who are at that last stage of proceedings right before writ is signed. And when the writ of eviction is signed, the next step is the bailiff can set you out and your stuff on the street. So individuals who are at that last stage, but for one more intervention, we're doubling back around and door knocking to that individual and those families and trying to shut the back door and keep as many people in their homes as possible. And of course, in the courtrooms, there are not enough attorneys for everyone at this time. But generally, if full representation can't be provided, we're trying to stretch it out and at least give phone advice or limited advice. So we're doing the outreach on the internet, we're doing it in person, in the Zoom courts, and we're out in the neighborhoods and in the street, knocking at the doors, being at the events, and doing everything we can to get the word out.
That's awesome. Absolutely awesome. And so you are making impact. And the courts, I would say, when they see someone come before them with a situation like this, knowing that your group of persons and agencies are really truly, excuse me, trying to help people, are the courts being a little more compassionate, so to speak?
Well, they're being more accommodating. They're being more accommodating. That's the word that I would use. Because again, they have a level of their attempt to be impartial. So they're being more accommodating and providing lists and data so we can reach people. They're being more accommodating that when an attorney shows up, being reasonable with adjournments. And when we say adjournments, we mean giving a little more time for the CERA application to be processed.
Yeah.
So that's good, Well, one thing that is interesting that there's still another hole. CERA only applies to renters. So if you're a homeowner or you have a land contract or some other type of arrangement that doesn't fit neatly in the CERA bucket, and you see that a lot in Detroit, due to our redlining, people are trying to use alternative means to buy because the banks aren't lending. So when you see individuals in that circumstance, there's no CERA. There is no CERA. So those cases are harder to fight, but we're fighting for everyone that comes in the door. So in general, they're being more accommodating, but it's not, they're bound by the law and people need to have a lawyer to make the case for them.
Okay. Oh my goodness. We've been talking about this for a long time, but it's good to see that there's a coalition of organizations that have come together to help people, because people truly need help. Now, do you have any partnerships on City Council? And if so, what is that like?
We do. We are thrilled that Pro Tem Mary Sheffield has taken this up as one of the items on her People's Bills agenda to pass a right to counsel ordinance. So she is working with her office to put forth a draft ordinance for the entire City Council to vote on. We've met with nearly every candidate running for Detroit City Council, not all, but the majority of them. And we've been pleased to have widespread support, and candidates that are running that are willing to say, hey, I'm going to work with you all and getting this through. So we are excited that we do have a legislative sponsor of sorts. And individuals that are running for office have seemed to be generally receptive. The devil's always in the details, but but the individuals that are putting themselves forth for service, in this election cycle have been generally receptive. So we're going through that process and certainly want to keep viewers apprised for when actual draft language hits the table, because we want to show up and express our support that this must happen. This is at crisis level, and it's a little a thin dam holding back the wall, in Detroit, and that dam is leaking as it is, So we need an institutional solution, a permanent institutional solution to this crisis.
Well, it's always said that there is power in numbers. And so the unification of these agencies is making impact from what I'm hearing, and that's absolutely awesome. For those who will catch this particular segment of Urban Interest, Attorney Phillips, how can they reach you in needing that legal representations with regards to evictions?
Well, if an individual is facing eviction, then I'll give you two sites to go to. First, you want to go to Detroit Eviction Prevention Help. No, that's not the exact site. Let me do better than that. Detroit Eviction, I'm sorry, I had my web page up and I just lost it. Well, what you want to do, I'll give you the phone number and then tell you how to get to the web page. So the phone number you want to go to is 866-313-2520. And again, that's 866-313-2520. And that's Detroit Eviction Prevention Help. That's the hotline. So that connects an individual immediately with an operator who will give them eviction prevention resources that will connect them to the legal aid agencies, and that will connect them to SERA rental assistance. And then you can go to the City of Detroit website or just type in Detroit Eviction Help in Google, and it will pop up, and that will connect you. You can also get in touch with the Detroit Right to Counsel Coalition. If you're on Facebook, just go to facebook.com/Detroit RTC. So facebook.com/Detroit RTC, and you can get in touch with members of our organization as well and join the cause. And email rtcdetroit@gmail.com.
All right. Thank you so much, Attorney Phillips. And thank you for you and the organizations for the work that you're doing. And as you say, that it is ongoing and people do need the help. So, Urban Interest UIN, Detroit IPTV says thank you to all of you for the work that you are doing. And again, everyone, the number is 866-313-2520, 866-313-2520. You connect with that number, and then they will definitely connect you with resources, or go to the Facebook page, Detroit RTC on the Facebook page. And so get in touch with Attorney Phillips and the organizations that are here to help you. Thank you so much. You have a great weekend. It's the big game on tomorrow. State in Michigan.
Go blue. Have my blue. Go blue.
Okay, thank you so much. We will talk to you later.
Thank you.
All right. Listen, everyone, that was Attorney Phillips, and she is the Community Partnerships and Development Director for the Sugar Loss Center for Economic and Social Justice in Detroit. Make sure you connect with her to get you some help with regards to rental evictions. We're going to take a quick break. We will come back and we're going to talk about voting and redistricting. We've been talking about this, and it is coming down to the wire, and our voices are needed, but you need to understand what's going on. So we'll be right back. All right, everyone, you are back with Urban Interest. We are going to talk about something, of course, that is very, very serious. So please, I want you to pay attention. Voting and redistricting, it goes hand in hand. And there's something that's happening right now. Maps are being drawn with regards to districts, and it does impact voting. So we have Mr. Ed Sarkolus here with us. He is the founder and executive director of Target Insight, and is recognized as he is recognized as one of the most notable pollsters, analysts, and strategists. Mr. Ed is a strategist, entrepreneurial thinker, and he is a deal maker. So listen, we have a heavy hitter with us this morning. He has had great success in crafting and implementing strategies to influence legislation, political action, and public policy decisions in Michigan and throughout the US, as well as several clients in Europe and the Pacific Rim. So again, we have someone who can speak to us about what's happening. This is very important. I'm going to stress that. So I'm asking you to pay attention, number one, to learn, number two, and then three, it's going to be a call to action for those who are listening. Hello, Mr. Sarkolus, how are you?
I'm doing fine. And besides all the gratitude of I also was born and raised in Detroit, and my family came to Detroit in 1890. So I have my roots in Detroit.
My goodness, 1890?
Yes. Wow. Yep. Eastern Market, where my family originally settled, and I could go on forever about the history that I know about the city. From my mom, helped take care of the apartment LK line, was raised in downtown Detroit, so I could go on a lot of different directions.
Well, I'm so glad that we have you here with us this morning, because when we talk about polls and analysts, analyzing polls and things of that nature, it can be a little congested and confusing. And so we're going to talk about voting and the drawing of these maps and what that means. So there's a commission that was put together to
by the vote of the people in 2018, by the vote of the people.
Okay. So by the vote of the people in 2000 and what was that again?
18.
How many people sits on this commission, and what's the name of it?
I think, well, it's the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. I think there's upwards of 13 people. I know it varies. And they're supposed to have people that are supposedly quasi nonpartisan, and supposed to be representative from people from Detroit and all around. The difficulty is some of the people from Detroit have not always showed up for meetings, or their voices have been squelched on the commission.
But this is commission that the people voted to put together. Is that correct?
That is true, but you got what's amazing to me in the fact is that, and I'm trying to toot my horn here, but a year and a half ago, I said what is happening today was going to happen. And I'm actually involved in the city of Chicago redrawing their maps and redistricting there. So when I came back to Michigan to see what's going on here, I felt like, are we in Texas? I said, this is what they're doing in Texas. If you look at some of the lawsuits are being filed in Texas about denying people of color their voice. Now, it doesn't mean that the people in Metro Detroit or the Black community, not only in Detroit, but statewide, because you got to remember, the Black population is nearly 14% across the state. And most of the people who get elected to represent the Black community are from the Detroit area because of the concentration. So if something's not done properly in the Metro Detroit area, it means people in Muskegon and Benton Harbor and Jackson and Saginaw do not have a voice in the state Senate, not in Congress, whatever. And if you look at the maps that they draw, and most of us remember that we have Brenda Lawrence and used to have John Connors, two Black congressmen from Michigan, okay? Well, bottom line, the plan that they drew, they did not draw a single majority minority congressional district. We used to have two Black congressional districts. Now they drew none. Okay, none. Okay, then we had 5 Black Senate seats. Now, that doesn't mean remember, the law doesn't say every person of Black has to guarantee the victory, but the opportunity. Okay, well, 10 years ago, we had 5 majority Black Senate districts. They drew 0 this time. 0. Okay. And what's important about the Senate district is the fact is that the bases of many of these Senate districts are outside the city. And those of us who've been around Detroit, you know that if the base of a Senate district or a congressional is outside the city, it's generally the person from the suburb who wins. So there's potential the fact that Detroit, they broke the city up into 8 pieces. The city can hold 3 Senate districts. They broke it into 8 to dilute the voice of Detroiters and the Black population. So bottom line is, come January 23, you may have somebody representing Detroit from Birmingham, Michigan, from Harrison Township, from Oakland County, from parts of Macomb County who typically never vote like Detroit. Basically, you may have no black senator, or you have nobody from Detroit in the state Senate, not in Congress, or potentially in the state House because of the way these maps are being drawn.
Oh my goodness. That makes my head hurt, to be honest with you.
It makes me hurt too, and that's why. Yes, go ahead.
So does these people, did they even understand, number one, did they understand the task? Maybe they understood the task, but what were they qualified to even be on this commission? Did they understand the totality of what this particular commission was to do?
Well, my impression.
Listen, and do we have some covert Trumpsters in there?
Well, actually, this is basically, remember, the purpose of the commission was as people, not politicians. But the commission was not defined with people, not politics. Racial gerrymandering is just as bad as partisan gerrymandering. These districts are being wanted to achieve a political purpose at the expense of the black vote. Okay, for example, you hear them. They say they're supporting communities of interest. That's what their pitch is. Well, the two largest community of interest in the state of Michigan are Black community and Detroit. So they won't divide Dearborn. They won't divide Westland, but they'll divide Detroit up in 8 pieces or 12 pieces for state house. So they have a mission. And remember, the people got on this commission basically have their own mission within the commission. They hired consultants who basically, I don't know where they got them from, because the fact is, my experience, if I was doing in Chicago what they're doing in Michigan, I would have been fired day one by the city. And actually, I'm actually representing the Black Caucus in Chicago. So I'm working with the racial politics where I have to draw Black wards, I have to draw Hispanic wards, and also Asian wards in Chicago. So I have to respect their voice. That's not being done in Michigan. And basically, we had the meeting at Cobo Hall, or TCF, now last week, and basically they seem to ignore what's being said. The Department of Civil Rights says you're pushing the civil rights. We had many prominent Black community leaders, and they basically fine, but go on. I was looking at the data; they're expert on data. And they did one election versus many elections. They did a general election claiming, well, whites are voting like the blacks. Well, they picked a general election where most blacks are Democrats, so white Democrats are voting like them. You have to work in primaries, okay? Because I've been working I've done over 400. This is my 49th year in politics in Metro Detroit, and I know that when Senator Kniezek, he beat Chanel Jackson, okay? And that bottom line, because the fact the base of that district was outside of Detroit. So what's happening here is that you can wake up and it might be not a black representative or representative from Detroit in the state legislature and maybe not in Congress. And I feel that's a shame because of the law, and they're ignoring the law. The fact you can't reduce the person's voice or delusion. This is intentional. I can't think it's like when I came back home last week, they drew no black congressional districts. It took me 1 hour to draw 2 of them on my system. If I can do it in an hour, why over the last 3 months they couldn't even draw 1? Okay, they said they drew, they said there was no majority black district. I did like 4 within a half hour. If I can do it in a short period of time, they're not even trying. So instead of a majority, 51%, they just, for example, they have a Senate district in Southwest Detroit. Well, it was luckily 58% black. Now they're drawing it at 34% black, with the base of it outside the city. Well, guess who's going to win? Not going to be a Detroiter. It's going to be the west outside of this Western Wayne County who has the money and the power. And typically, as you well know, working in Detroit, many black people run against each other. So if you get one person outside the city who's not of color, they tend to win.
Oh my goodness.
That's what's at stake. It's the black voices are really at stake right now. And the fact is that I'm really surprised that there isn't more voices in the black community speaking out on this. Where are they coming from? Because my concern is, yes, I love the city. I come back I'm in the city almost every week, visiting family and friends. I'm thinking, if I see it, why isn't anybody else seeing this? Why isn't there a push on this?
Well, Ed, and I'm thinking, and this is just my own personal opinion, that, there's so much going on and we're always fighting. Yes. Blacks are always fighting for something. We're fighting against the voter suppressive and restrictive laws. And so this is just another fight. And this pandemic has exhausted people. It's exhausting as to what's going on, crises after crises and trauma after trauma.
It is.
And so sometimes people just get tired and just say, okay, I throw up my hands and I just give up, because my voice seems to not count, and I'm talking about this particular situation, not
I
voting.
agree with you.
As
Yes.
well as my efforts. You know, I make some efforts and then you take me back, not 10 steps, but 15 to 20 steps. And so now it's a tread, it's a very hard tread upward again, you know, just to get the basic necessities and the bare minimum.
I know that. It really surprised me because the fact I'm thinking about this is that what represents the Black community is very important to me.
Yeah.
Is the fact not only is elected a representative from the Black community important for Blacks across the whole state, but many of the Black representatives tend to be females. And Blacks representing the female vote, not only the Black vote, because they make up a good portion of the people who are elected. So man, we're losing twice when somebody from Detroit, specifically Black person, because as I've done analysis, most people staying in Detroit are educated Black women, okay? So they're losing a voice to help build for their families and jobs and community. So to me, this is yes, there's a lot of things going on, but we still have to take that little extra effort because your voice could be shut down for the next 10 years if something doesn't change.
Oh my goodness. Was this too big of a task, Ed, for this commission? Do you think?
No. Here's the problem is when I've been involved in this now over 30 years doing redistricting. One, there was no transparency. They could have more transparency. Number two, they didn't set up what their guidelines, principal rules were by drawing the lines. They had nobody from voting rights expert come in and explain what does that mean to drawing the lines. They ignored anything that would have to put a focus on them that they weren't following the Voting Rights Act. I don't see any of that. So no, you can have a commission do this. Other states do this. Other communities do this, even in Republican states. So that's not the issue. The fact that there was no attempt to get the information, or at least the people in charge of it, or those select group that get on the commission. Because I work across the country over the last 30 years. No, this is not a hard task. It's basically someone has to educate them and get their input. That's all it takes.
So Ed, do you know the makeup of the commission and the possible jurisdictions that could have given them their actions?
Oh, well, first of all, they've got state law they could have followed. For example, most of us been using what's called the Bernie-April criteria from 1980, okay, which guided us in how we draw our lines, okay? They could have taken the Voting Rights Act. It gives you 12 steps to drawing lines. They didn't follow any of the 12 steps. I mean, it's there already, okay? They didn't bring anybody from the NAACP to speak to them about what does it take to draw in a majority minority state. They didn't take anybody locally. The departments of civil rights, already spoke to the fact they might be breaking the law. We were hearing through the grapevine the fact that they told them yesterday, you're breaking the voting rights, but they don't seem to care about it. They have their mission and they want to be sued because their mission is what they want to do. What's not necessarily right for everybody in the state.
So what I just heard is that they could be sued for how they are progressing with this particular.
Yes, they could use some presumptive pursuits, but the judge may say, well, they're not official maps. It may not really officially say anything until after January 1st. There's roughly 2 lawsuits, okay, going on. It's the majority minority lawsuits, and there are other lawsuits for people independent of the Black community feel that they're just ignoring them, okay? When they say you can divide Detroit in 13 pieces, but you can't split up Westland by 1/2. I mean, so there's other people where they're dividing. And the other thing is they're building their own case. Well, the Dearborn says we didn't want to be part of Detroit, so you're not part of Detroit. The Grosse Pointe said we didn't want to be part of Detroit, so they drew their Senate district all the way up into Harrison Township, okay? What do people in Harrison have to do with Detroit or Grosse Pointe? This is intentionally being done to meet their own political purposes. And the problem, the fact that people of color did not really have a single major voice, or they were shut down in the process. Because we thought, because this was passed predominantly by Democrats in 2018, with the governor, we have a Black lieutenant governor, and Jocelyn Benson was an expert redistricting before she came to the state. We thought, many of us, we got ourselves covered. I'm thinking, well, nothing's being covered. So it doesn't mean things can't change, but I think is that what you called action. And I think the action is very important because the fact, if there isn't more voices, then they're going to go away with this. And then, for example, with the conservative U.S. Supreme Court, more leaning, conservative, they may lose their lawsuit because the Supreme Court does not really care about the voting rights, as we've seen how the voting rights, they removed a part of it in 2013. So the point being, we have to stop it now, work with them. Doesn't mean they do have time. If I can draw a Senate plan and a congressional plan over 2 or 3 days, they can redo these maps quickly. This is not a problem. Okay, there's many of us who have been doing this for 30 years that still exist in the state who can assist them. Mm-hmm. So the issue of the fact they really want to do it. That's what we don't know yet.
So what's the makeup of this commission?
Well, I think they had like 2 black representatives, okay? And then the rest are from around the state, okay? And you can go online, you can see their names and where they're from. And you can also go online and actually you can see all the plans I'm talking about. You can actually click on the plans they have a website, and you can see where your city is represented by how many Senate seats, how black it is or not, who the makeup is, and you can leave comment there. So they are open public there. The problem is most people, like you said, remember, we only do this every 10 years. So there aren't people like me around all the time and say, I can see something and it's wrong. And that's why I took time coming back from Chicago. I live in Lansing now. That's my work. But that's why I took time to write the op-ed. I've been on numerous Zoom meetings. I've been on a number of TV and radio shows. I'm doing, like I said, I'm doing a show, coming up, with Chuck Stokes, because the fact this has to be said. So I know the voice is starting to get out there. Deadline Detroit published my op-ed. I was in local paper. So I'm trying to get the voice out. There has been some coverage. We just have to get more people in the community saying, hey, I'm here. Please listen to us.
Okay, so how will this move fare with the Voting Rights Act of 1965? There is definitely a connection. So give us some information on that.
Well, there's some fancy terms here. One is it's called run retrogression, meaning the fact you can't reduce intentionally the number of minority districts from one census to the next. Okay, so bottom line, there's a Ketchum and Byrne case out of Chicago, which was involved in the 80s. Basically, we had 5 Senate districts. So that means is that you don't intentionally eliminate all 5 majority of black votes. You don't have to guarantee them, but you can't not say. They dropped it down to 0. They didn't even try to draw 1. So that's okay. Number 2, we had 2 black congressional districts. They didn't even try to 1. They talked about we could have 1 black board district out of Chicago. They didn't even do that. They split it. Okay. Then state house districts. We had 12 black state representative districts. Now we have 2. Okay, so they're building their case so that people can sue on that. Secondly, did they follow the steps of the voting rights law? So they'll have to do that. And one, we'll look at their intention. Did they try to do anything? And then we'll look at their experts. Was their data faulty? Well, if what I'm hearing, the fact that she only took 1 election, which is the 220 general election, where yes, blacks and white Democrats voted the same. That's not unusual, okay? But they didn't look at the primaries, is where when blacks tend to lose their representation. Where Rashida Tlaib on the congressional district, the base of her success is outside the city. We look at all the people out of Detroit, the state reps, because their base is outside the city. So they are building their case. The question is, we have to getting momentum going. But the problem with this, the fact is that if there aren't people coming to assist them, it's still going to take money. So I tell people the fact is, get out to other other communities, because they're going to have to file lawsuits. It's going to take some funding. I know in Chicago right now, just to be protecting me right now, we've already spent about $30,000 to $50,000 on legal action to protect the rights of the black community in Chicago. Okay, but when I came in, I did it 10 years for Chicago. They brought me back, but I already built into my system. How do we protect the voting rights of the people of color, whether Hispanic, black, or Asians? But you have to start that from the very beginning, so we don't have to go to lawsuit after they're passed. Detroit right now, in black communities statewide, not just Detroit, we're behind the 8 ball, because the fact is we have nobody there pushing them do what is right.
Oh my goodness. This is why we have urban interests, because information like this is not getting out to the general population. Basically.
No, it's not. No, that's why it's not.
Mainstream media, white media is not talking about it. And so this is something that needs to be talked about. It needs to be out here. So how can people get involved? What do we need to do right now?
Well, there's a number of things that you can do. You could go online and make your comments known. Okay, there are, for example, you have different senators from the black contact your state rep or state senator who knows what's going on. I think Sherry Gay Donago, which you may know, she's sort of leading the cause in Metro Detroit for the black community. You got Keith Williams from the Democratic Black Caucus. He's involved in the process. From the Congressional District 14, you have Rick Blocker, who's taking the lead on this, holding events. You can call Rick Blocker, the 14th Congressional District. Rick will work with you. He's trying to get people together. So you can work with Rick Blocker, Sherry Gay Donago, Keith Williams. Those are the people who are being very prominent right now. You have Harvey Santana, his wife is obviously a state senator. He's getting involved. We have a lot of people, ex-Brian Banks. There are groups of people that you can reach out to, okay? So there are community leaders. You can contact, if you're part of a labor union, you got Rory Gamble, UAW. So you got a lot of people you got to get talked to, but you got Reverend Anthony, okay, from the NAACP in Detroit. Reach out to them saying, what are we doing? What do you need help with? So reach out to your community leaders and get your voice.
Okay. All right. Is there a website that people can go and either make comments and or?
That's the Michigan Independent Redistricting Commission website is at the state thing. They can do that. But you can reach out to the people I've said, they'll work with you and to get information out. Rick Blocker is working very hard in 14th Congressional District. He's the chair of the commission, the Congressional District. Call him would probably be the most prominent person, because remember, he was an ex-labor leader. So, I mean, he's got connected to the labor unions and the people in the community, and he represents Brenda Lawrence for the congressional. He'd be the strongest voice to kind of contact. But on the positive side, as I mentioned to you before the show, the fact is that there are some things happening in the Detroit election coming up on Tuesday. There's a possibility that proposal or the reparation proposal has a good chance at passing. Okay.
What proposal is that again?
Proposal R. It's for basically to address reparations of past wrongs done in Detroit, predominantly to the Black community. It's to design economic development and home improvement, community involvement, and education. Why it's getting some support, the fact is that the way it was written, in fact, it's not limited to, this is not going to be on handouts. It's not going to take city tax dollars, but the point is going to benefit everybody in the city, whether you're white, Black, Hispanic, whatever. If the reparations is spending out to the Black community, if you live in those communities, you will benefit at the same time. This is not designed for one person getting a check. This is, you have to invest in your community to see the benefit proposal out.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. A lot of information. Definitely going to review this segment to dissect what you have said and then to get those names written down and reach out to those persons so that we can help get this word out. Thank you so much for your passion.
Yes, thank you very much.
What you're doing. You are awesome and amazing. And so thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
All right, listen, everyone, that is Mr. Ed Sarkolus. He is founder and executive director of Target Insight, and he's recognized as one of the Michigan's most notable pollsters, analysts, and strategists. I know, I know this is hard. We're always fighting, as I said, but we have to continue to band together. Redistricting the maps, drawing of the maps is very important. And yes, it is connected to the Voting Rights Acts of 1965 with regards to all of these other, and this is my opinion, suppressive tactics that are going on. But we got to stay woke and we have to stay vigilant in what we're doing. And Ed and all of the people that he has mentioned is definitely doing that. So we're going to take a quick break and we're going to wrap up this segment of Urban Interest. It has been phenomenal for a Friday.
Today, we bring you the first part of our global broadcast exclusive conversation.
The streets of Tahrir have once again been filled.
Key issues here at the United Nations Climate Change Conference remain unresolved.
Police are saying the protesters to move further and further away.
I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!
All right, you have received some great information today. We talked about the stories of the $88 million settlement to the families of those who were in Charleston, South Carolina, who were killed during a Bible study. And so that settlement to the families won't bring, of course, the members back. However, hopefully it will ease something and then their voices will be heard with regards to gun violence and gun sales. We still need to have a conversation about that. And then the white employee who won his settlement of $10 million with saying that the company let him go because they were trying to put a person of color in their diversity and equity, I guess, organization. Listen, don't put a person of color in a position just because they're a person of color and you want to, an organization wants to say, hey, that we are what I want to say, advocating and or supporting diversity, equity, inclusion. All Black people are talking about is fairness and what is right. We are intelligent, we're creators, we're innovators. It has been proven through time and history. So let's get this thing right with regarding to DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. And then of course, catch the movie Passing, which will appear on Netflix on November the 6th. Hate crimes are still going up. Oh my goodness, we have to protect ourselves and we have to be vocal. We have to report people. You do the crime, you will do the time. And folk are not scared. Let's not get it twisted. We're not scared at all. So I'm just asking people to be kind and to be respectful. And let's, decrease these racist acts against Asians, African-American people, and other people as well. And then also evictions. Get in touch with Detroit Right to Counsel, DRTC. Attorney Phillips gave you some information. Hopefully that you have caught that. If not, review the segment. And then also our voices need to be heard with regards to voting and redistricting. It is very important. Mr. Ed Sarkolus gave us some information as well. We will be reaching out to the people that he has mentioned in this particular segment. Have a great weekend. This is Detroit. IPTV.com. Catch us on YouTube as well as Urban Interest. This weekend is going to be phenomenal. Michigan State is playing on Saturday tomorrow, as well as it's Halloween. The trick-or-treaters will be out. Make sure that you protect your children as well as yourself. We want to have a safe and fun weekend. But don't forget about November the 2nd, which is voting, and your local elections are important. So get out to vote between now and then. If you have absentee ballots, turn those ballots in. Make sure that your IDs is correct, your address on your IDs, and you have the proper information, because you don't want to be turned away from the polls. These suppressive tactics are in place, but make sure that you are wiser and smarter than those. Listen, I'm Angela Matthews with Urban Interests. Catch us on Instagram, on our Instagram page, that is urban.interest, or on Detroit IPTV, as I said, on our YouTube page. Listen, a lot of information. I know I gave it to you, but I'm sure you got it. If not, review the segment. Talk to you later. Have a great weekend.